channeling the power of Sebastian Vettel, even on this show. Anybody surprised, really? Welcome to Dre TV.
Welcome to you all at home.
You've still got a chance to win this race, haven't you?
Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it feel
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Dre TV, the show featuring Formula 1 and MotoGP news, reviews, and all kinds of other fun stuff here on the Harrison 101 YouTube channel. On tonight's episode, I review the MotoGP Circuit of the Americas from all three classes. We talk about Stefano Domenicali's sacking / resignation, nudge nudge wink wink, at Ferrari. Haas! America is coming to Formula 1! Again! Hooray! That sounds exciting, right? We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And we'll preview the Chinese Grand Prix this upcoming weekend in Formula 1. And we have our first guest segment. We'll be featuring Aarav, talking about some Aero talk regarding the Chinese Grand Prix after watching free practice. He's noticed some things about the aerodynamic parts because he's a total friggin' nerd like that. And he's awesome. So we're featuring some of that on the show as well later on. But first, let's kick off with us reviewing the MotoGP Grand Prix of the Americas. MotoGP returned to Texas for its second race with the Grand Prix of the Americas, one of 3 this season anyway, and the race got off to a surprising start. Championship contender Jorge Lorenzo continued his awful run of luck by jumping the start, and it was probably one of the most obvious jump starts MotoGP has had in a long time. As a result, he was given a ride-through penalty and fell all the way to the back. Jorge eventually came back to finish in 10th, another costly mistake. At the front, Marquez had achieved something that normally doesn't happen. A good start. Pedrosa followed him along in second, and in a bit of a deja vu moment, Andrea Iannone had pulled off another brilliant start to move to third from 11th on the grid. Speaking of more deja vu, Valentino Rossi was picking off rider after rider early on, piling through the tech-free Yamahas and the Ducatis, before seeming to hit the wall when Andrea Iannone came up in third. Then strangely, Rossi's pace seemed to completely fall off the cliff, and he fell back massively, eventually finishing in 8th place. 45 seconds behind the race winner, topping off another miserable weekend for the factory Yamaha team. The reason why? Apparently Rossi had destroyed his front tyre early on in the race and they just couldn't recover it from there. Rossi wasn't the only one having a miserable weekend. Another man continuing his bad run of luck was Alvaro Bautista. After qualifying a below par 12th, he crashed around the halfway point, along with 4 other retirements in Scott Redding, probably leading Melanie Sykes to have an emotional breakdown backstage, Brock Parks, Colin Edwards, sad face, and Cal Crutchlow, who sadly dislocated a finger in his hand after crashing on the asphalt runoff area. Knowing Cal will probably super glue it back together and be back to go for Argentina. There was also a late surge at the end of the race, with Andrea Iannone falling back with his bad tyres, Dovizioso breaking off into the distance for third, while Bradley Smith and Stefan Bradl had a dogfight for fourth, with Bradl narrowly winning the fight for fourth over the line by a couple of bike lengths. But at the front, it was Marc Marquez who had dominated not just the race, but the entire weekend. He is the undisputed King of America, winning every time a race has been staged in the country since he entered MotoGP, and despite nearly dropping at the final corner, which was hilarious, he was sensational, winning by over 4 seconds from Dani Pedrosa with a Grand Slam victory. Pole, race win, fastest lap while leading every single lap, and being fastest in every single session he entered. The very definition of dominance. Pedrosa was in a different race in second, and Andrea Dovizioso was in a different country in third, 20 seconds behind Marquez in what was Ducati's first podium since San Marino 2012. You have to wonder though if it's a good thing in the long run given the rules and their own open class status. There was also career high finishes for Bradley Smith in 5th, Pol Espargaro in 6th, both Tech 3s the top Yamaha runners, and Andrea Iannone in 7th, the best ever finish for the Pramac Ducati team as well. In all honesty, the top class race wasn't as exciting as Qatar. That was always going to be a difficult platform to climb, but it had drama from the get-go and fights all through the top half of the field from start to finish, and that's what made it a fun watch. It's a 7 out of 10 kind of race. Find the replay if you get a chance. Further down in Moto 2, a shock result after Johan Zarco binning his very strong looking Caterham from second and Xavier Simeon binning it from the lead. It cleared the way for one of the most impressive and best rookie performances I've ever seen from Maverick Vinales, picking up his first Moto2 victory in just his second ever race in the division, by over 4 seconds from title favourite Tito Rabat, who recovered from an awful start to finish in second, with Mr. Consistency himself, Dominique Agata, matching his best Moto2 finish to date in third. Brilliant Sam Lowes finished in 16th, just shy of the points after being involved in a 5-bike pile-up on lap 1. If you get a chance, go see the end of that race. Maverick Vinales breaking the lap record and the fastest ever lap around the Circuit of the Americas in a Moto2 bike with a 15-lap-old tyre is one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen on a bike. In Moto3, and arguably another case of deja vu, with Jack Miller becoming the first Australian to ever win back-to-back Grand Prix in the third tier of the sport. He was always in control as we had another Spanish civil war behind him, with Efren Vasquez and Alex Marquez constantly exchanging positions, which allowed Romano Fenati to sneak in and steal second from Vasquez in third, representing the Valentino Rossi Sky team's first podium in Moto3. Alex Rins finished 4th after Marquez fell and crashed on the penultimate lap. For the Brits, Danny Kent came in 8th, John McPhee in 9th in a great fight with Red Bull rookie champ Karel Haneker in 10th. Shout out to Ellie, you know who you are. Thanks everybody for listening, and check back for more Formula 1 stuff coming up next. If you've got any thoughts on that sweet weekend of MotoGP action, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think, as always. Next up, our first guest segment, we're going to be featuring Aarav, and he's very kindly let us use some of his Aero package in his race previews for Dre TV. I have full permission to use his content in his work, which I'm very, very grateful for. So thanks, Aarav, for that. If you haven't already, check out his channel. Link will be in the description. And yeah, enjoy a little sneak peek of his preview video where he talks about some of the Aero packages heading into the Chinese Grand Prix this weekend. Check it out.
So now I'm going to move on to McLaren. So McLaren, well, it was a tale of two halves because it ended very badly for them. A double DNF. Being a McLaren, I'm not a McLaren supporter. I mostly support Jenson Button as a driver, but inadvertently I support McLaren then. And it was looking good for both of them. Jenson Button looked really strong. Yeah, Kevin Magnussen, he was looking okay, actually, I should say. Had a few issues. He was having issues with the clutch, kind of the software of it all race, and they both retired due to this clutch issue. And actually, it wasn't actually an actual clutch issue. It was confirmed in free practice by Ted Kurritz that it was actually a software malfunction. They were trying to do something a bit fancy with it to try and maybe gain some performance, and it just kind of glitched out on them and affected the clutch quite heavily, so they had to retire both cars. Really unfortunate for McLaren, but you know, let's see if China brings anything for them. To be honest, I don't have high hopes for them at China either. I think they're just trying to find their feet still after last year's difficult times. I don't think they're trying anything too brash and too new, but there were a few tiny little aero upgrades at China, and we'll get into that now. So here's a picture of the McLaren front wing, and you can see on the end plate here, it used to be smooth completely, but now you can see there are two little winglets that kind of curve, and you can see where it would channel the air. So essentially the air comes in and it kind of just gets scooted up. They're trying to scoot it over the front tire, so it kind of goes over the front tire, gets dragged along into the side pod inlet and around the side pods. Also, you can see under the second winglet on the back, it's kind of curving outward a tiny bit, so that will be pushing the air outwards around the tire as well. So essentially, they're just trying to get air around these tires. The tire, even though it's the only point of contact for the car on the track, it is a very big obstacle for aerodynamicists. You know, it's a big, chunky, rectangular thing in their way, so they need to get the air around it somehow. So McLaren, a few little details here and there, like this, and you know, apart from this, I didn't actually see too much, which is a bit disappointing because I believe they did say they were bringing a few upgrades for China. But yeah, still should surely help them a tiny bit. We'll see, maybe gain them maybe half a tenth or something like that, or maybe even a tenth. If things go really well for them. So now we're going to move on to Ferrari.
Thanks again to Aarav for that featured segment there of some of the Aero work that's going into this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. Very, very in-depth. Check out the full-length version on his channel. It's fantastic. And obviously subscribe to his channel as well. He does brilliant work over there. He's really blowing up recently when it comes to views. So he really does deserve it. So check him out. Now, let's move on to some more Formula 1 as we talk about Stefano Domenicali's recent sacking at Ferrari. Right. Stefano Domenicali has resigned from Ferrari. Now, this is an interesting one. Ferrari's form tends to swing on a dime in recent years, but let's be frank, it's been on the downside of things on the whole lately. As time has gone on with Ferrari, Fernando Alonso has shown more and more frustration as to why it isn't at the top, with the former double world champion even saying he wanted a new car for his birthday after an average performance in Hungary last season. 2008 was the last time the team won either championship, and that feels like a long time ago. I suspect Bahrain 2 weeks ago was the straw that effectively broke the camel's back. Unfortunately, the person the camel was carrying was Luca de Montezemolo. Luca is a ruthless bastard. Now, I don't want to imply anything, but this is the man who paid to release Kimi Räikkönen from the team in 2009, just about a year after winning them their first World Drivers' Championship since Schumacher. Well, 2 years actually, but whatever. If Luca wants something done, it gets done. He's one of the most powerful and influential people, not just in Formula 1, but in the automotive industry in general. Now, I don't want to suggest that Stefano may not have been telling the whole truth in that resignation on Monday, but let's be honest, I can't be the only one thinking that Stefano was pushed rather than jumped. Team principals walking after 3 Grand Prix in a season just doesn't happen. Period. This situation reminds me a lot of something you would see in football, where managers like Norwich's Chris Hughton or Tottenham's Andre Villas-Boas get sacked mid-season, and rarely does the club in question do any favours for them. Now, Marco Materazzi is getting the ultimate Formula 1 baptism of fire as the new team principal in Formula 1's most popular team, who are in their biggest crisis in recent years. What will happen? Will they bounce back? Because Bahrain wasn't good. A freak scenario where Ferrari barely scored points on pure pace alone. Let me know how you think Ferrari will fare in China and beyond, and what you think of the stacking below. I can't lie, I've really got to stop saying sacking when it comes to Domenicali, because it wasn't really. It was a resignation. But as I said in the little clip there, let's be honest, he was probably pushed out of the door more than he himself jumped. Just a thought. Right, let's do some speculation and let's do some fun stuff now. As we talk about Haas, the Americans. The Americans are coming to Formula 1 and they're coming to invade us, apparently. Anyway, here's some Haas F1 talk. For the viewers stateside who watch the show, this must be an exciting bit of news for you. America is coming back to Formula 1 in an even bigger way, with the news revealed that last week Gene Haas has been granted entry as an F1 team for the 2015 season. Whether he takes up the offer for next season or the 2016 season remains to be seen yet, but let the speculation and excitement commence, right? First thing on people's minds to me was, what engine supply will they go with? And it's hard not to suggest Mercedes given their sheer dominance over Ferrari and Renault at present. That would seem like the best choice to hit the ground running, but who knows? By then, maybe Renault and Ferrari might have caught up. Also, I'm sure cost and possible sponsorship would have been a factor, not to mention the wildcard of Honda coming back next season too. What about drivers? A lot of the press have been hovering around the Busch brothers, but I suspect they're just too old to be thinking about a Formula 1 career at 28 and 35 respectively, even if they've teased the idea of trying Formula 1 in the past. The headlining favourite has to be Alexander Rossi. He's still only 22, he's the current Caterham test driver, he's the only American driver with a current FIA super license, and he was a top 10 runner in the GP2 Championship last season, getting his first win at Abu Dhabi last season. Wonder if he's well sponsored. Speaking of which, Rossi, no relation to Valentino, seems like the ideal candidate, but another possibility is charismatic Indiana native Connor Daly, who's raced in Indy Lights, the Indy 500, and was third in last season's GP2 World Championship. But he himself admits he's been held back due to his lack of funding, which is seemingly as important as talent in F1's recruiting efforts these days. And of course, there's some more of the veteran names that hop in and out of the sport that could be just given the old phone call to fill in the gap for the time being, such as Mr. Reliable, Finland's Heikki Kovalainen, or Vitaly Petrov, who's been sitting on a swimming pool of cash to get a seat back in Formula 1 since 2012. Juan Pablo Montoya chimed in recently as well, suggesting that Haas is mad if he intends to run his team in America, unlike the majority of the F1 teams that are run in the United Kingdom and Europe. If he wants to build the team here in the States, I think it's completely mad. You can't even call it mad because it makes no sense. You are not going to get people from England to move to Charlotte, he said. And he's got a point there. So many aspects of Formula 1, including their engineers and technical guys behind the scenes, are based in the United Kingdom here. Anyone fancy relocating? Because let's all speculate, because that shit is fun. What do you think of the Haas entry? Do you think they'll take Mercedes power or go elsewhere? And what about their drivers? Management? So many possibilities. So let's have some fun with this thing. Comment below as always. Okay, if you've got any thoughts on Haas F1, any speculative comments on what they think the team's going to do, will they build the team here, will they build it in America, their possible drivers, Alexander Rossi, Connor Daly, maybe one of the Bush brothers are possibilities, any more of those kind of things, please let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think as ever. In case you're wondering, there is no Ask Dre in this video. The reason why is because you're getting a bonus episode. There'll be a second Dre TV episode tomorrow, and it's going to be nothing but me answering your questions. I called it Dre TV episode 7, all questions considered. So if you have a last minute question you want me to answer on this show, I'm hoping to make it about a half an hour long show featuring nothing but your questions. Hashtag Ask Dre in the comments and get your question in there, and it has a much higher chance of getting in this show, because normally I like to keep Ask Dre to under 10 minutes on this show normally. So I thought, instead of me sticking a massive segment there and missing out 40% of your questions, I'm going to just do a separate episode featuring all of your questions on there instead. Right, before we go, let's do some quick talk about the Chinese Grand Prix. So the Formula 1 wagon heads across Asia to China in the Shanghai International Circuit. If anything, the Fuelgate verdict working against Red Bull and the interchange at Ferrari, if anything, has been a bit of a distraction from the impending doom that is Mercedes being super fast so far this season, more so than car advantage in recent years. So, which Mercedes wins and if it all goes to plan? It's hard not to say Lewis Hamilton. He's in the form of his life with this car, and he's gotten the measure of his teammate Nico Rosberg in back-to-back races, the latter of which was one of Nico's best tracks. What's interesting is that Lewis, though, has never won 3 races in a row in his career, and if Bahrain's anything to go by, Nico can definitely run Lewis close. We'll have to wait and see. As said, the eyes of the paddock will be on Ferrari this weekend, given their sacking of Stefano Domenicali and coming off the back of their worst mechanical performance in recent years, after barely scraping the points in Bahrain. Can they bounce back into the higher positions? Anything less than a top 6 is going to make Luca erupt. Was it just a bad weekend, or was it something more? Considering Shanghai is a little more technical than Malaysia, would it be another case of Mercedes power leading the charge? Force India are coming off their best ever race. Can they keep that form going despite reliability problems here and there, and the fact that they've not ever been too strong around China? Can McLaren come back after their issues in Bahrain with their double clutch failure? How about Williams? They seem to be strong on pace, but they seem to be strong on their tyres too. But they do have the pace to contend for podiums, but their issue seems to be that their tyre wear isn't up to snuff after having to run a 3-stopper in Bahrain. And there's that wonderful X factor of rain to consider as well. If it does, expect Red Bull to run Mercedes close, considering they're generally accepted to having the best chassis in the field, and the wet weather neutralising the power advantage that Mercedes seems to have. See Sebastian Vettel's lap in quali in Malaysia for some of the proof. But who do you think will triumph in China this weekend? Any wild predictions? Let me know in the comments below. And that'll do it for this week's Dre TV. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a like, comment and subscribe to the show for more. I'd really appreciate it. It really does help me out. And I will catch you guys next time. To play us out, I'm going to play a little funny McLaren commercial from 2007. I'm sure you guys will love it. Until then, I've been Harrison101. Thank you very much for watching. And sayonara.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
Alonso. Hamilton.
Anything you can wear, I can wear better. In what you wear, I look better than you.
In my coat?
In your vest.
In my shoes?
In your hat.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can say, I can say faster.
I can say anything faster than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you
Yes,
can't.
I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.